So I've been a pretty vocal critic of Build 42 since the start, despite the fact that I can't seem to stop playing it. In fact, as I am recording this, I have just wrapped up an 11-hour stream of the newest Build 42.1 update, still unstable, and walked away with one question. Is Build 42 good now? Or I guess more accurately I would say, if you've stuck to Build 41 hoping for a finished product, should you jump on Build 42 now? And my response to that would be yes! Asterisk? To put it as simply as possible, the elements of Build 42 that are just Project Zomboid but more of it are all good. Very good, actually. And I think that to a lot of people who haven't jumped on Build 42 yet, it is worth jumping on to experience them. The new items, the weapons, the crops, and the incredible lighting. And spoiler alert, I do think this new update is headed in the right direction, so I hope I'm able to convince you. So welcome to my lightly updated review. Quick note that we are fundraising to help keep the lights on here at New Memphis. There's a PayPal link in the description, as well as Patreon and YouTube Super Thanks. Note that YouTube does take 30% of Super Thanks, and so I recommend the PayPal. We're treading on thin financial ice here, but we're determined to keep it going all the way up until the end. My name is Richard, and I am so glad that you could be here today. Right away when reading the dev blog, I did notice that they're making a lot of the really hyper-specific crafting items easier to find. Long sticks can now be snapped off of brooms and mops, large branches can be sawn to make planks, and there are generally more ways to craft or forage or somehow assemble the very specific items, the bottleneck items, as the devs would call them. There is still a ways to go, though, don't get me wrong. I mean, is it even necessary for long sticks and wooden rods to be two different items in the first place? But again, I do think it's headed in the right direction. One odd observation I did have while playing was that I actually started to engage with the carpentry far earlier on when I was introduced to animals. You know, just having something that you're trying to keep alive did actually motivate me to expend the time and energy and resources. Obviously, the Indie Stone was not a fan of the old system of power leveling carpentry in which you just found a furniture store or a motel and took apart every single piece of furniture you could find. We know they're not a fan of it because they disabled it entirely. You can't get XP from dismantling anymore in Build 42. In carpentry, still in electronics. However, when I started building things for the creatures I was trying to keep alive, I would build things and then some, like that whole second water trough that they probably didn't need. So if anyone from the Indie Stone happens to be watching this, and they're invested in finding things for the player to build that will increase their carpentry skill, as opposed to telling the player they should dismantle everything in sight, having more things to build for the animals, the thing you're trying to keep alive, could be a motivating factor that gets the player to go out and engage with the building mechanics more. If that makes sense. I hope it does. And doubly so once the NPCs are added. Something to be thinking about in the future. I know it's going to be a long time. The redesigned Moodles, like many of Build 42's more controversial aspects, have been scaled back. Literally, they're just smaller now. And they changed that stupid egg Moodle, finally. That was the worst one they've ever designed. By far, it was awful. Thank you for listening. A lot of the UI elements have been retooled. I know it's kind of boring, but I do appreciate they took the time to pay attention to the size of individual items and lists within the crafting menu to try to make it more readable and easily scrollable. It's a small thing, but it is noticed and appreciated. And if I may add a suggestion, I do think the ability to right-click on a weapon in your inventory and just be able to instantly pull up all recipes related to that item would be a very, very good thing, so you're not going into the menu and typing into the search bar and trying to find it each and every time. Most of the items you end up crafting in the game, you'll craft once, but when it comes to weapon repairs and upgrades, that's the one time where I feel like I end up going in and out and in and out and in and out of the menus a couple of times, and just having that right click show me what's the recipes that are associated with this item would be very, very helpful. Or if there are none, just straight say no recipes or no upgrades available for this weapon, which is something that a new player can see and then take into account before they decide that they want to devote some of their precious inventory space to this weapon. And now the part we had to get to eventually. The muscle strain. Oh boy, bane of this update. And I'm going to go in depth. In true Richard fashion, I am going to not hold back, but I'm going to attempt to be constructive. But you can just go back on my channel and look at what my initial reaction was to the muscle strain. When I first experienced it and didn't know what it was, I liked the muscle strain. Why? Because I thought my character was getting stronger. I totally agree with the idea that your characters should be straining themselves, going from a regular job one day to swinging a frying pan 4,000 times an hour the next day. But within a few weeks, or in a game of this timescale within a few days, your character should get used to performing this repetitive action and straining their muscles, and then they should get stronger from it. But that's not how it works. Instead, you get stronger by going home and doing push-ups at the end of the day and performing that repetitive action, which then strains your muscles, which then makes you stronger, so you can perform a different repetitive action throughout the day that doesn't then strain your muscles, and you don't get stronger. It's all just very confused, and it didn't make any sense to me, until I realized that the muscle strain has nothing to do with realism at all, and everything to do with the devs smacking your hands away from the keyboard and declaring you are not allowed to kill any more zombies in this sitting. It's a little frustrating. The very first update to this mechanic saw it nerfed by 60%, which, while it is commendable for them to be willing to take that feedback, says a lot about the reception. And that update was before build 42.1. That was just a hotfix. In my most recent live stream, I will admit, I didn't notice the muscle strain. I forgot to turn it off, because normally I do, but it's been so nerfed now, I just didn't even notice it. Now, granted, this time I did spec my character for melee combat, but I don't know, it feels weird. Like, what's the point of it now? The game already has an exhaustion system, as well as the need to sleep, as well as, you know, a limited amount of daylight in which you can operate. So what is the point of adding on a second exhaustion system on top of the first one? I mean, we know what the point was. It's because the devs were mad that 1% of players were breaking the game, so they threw in an arbitrary roadblock for all players. But for the average player, this is just another thing we have to keep track of, like counting our swings like bullets fired out of a magazine. And the best thing I can say about it is, congratulations, it's so nerfed at this point that it's just this extra feature just hanging off the update like a vestigial tail. So I guess if I have to get around to explaining the meaning behind that asterisk, it's that, again, build 42 is good. Very good. Very, very good. But it lacks some focus on the players it should have been focusing on. It was a little too focused on, like, the top 1% and what they were doing, as opposed to, like, what the bulk of players are doing, what the bulk of players' experiences are, what it's like for the average person who just gets the game at the most recent Steam sale, downloads it, and wants the chance to experience this world. The sight on that has been lost in a way you'd probably expect from a game development team that's been at this for over 10 years. Hopefully people like me can help to help keep those reminders coming. I think build 42.1 is headed in the right direction. It's early, but the amount of work they've been able to get done, especially given that the holiday season means a lot of them were probably at home with family, I hope. I think the amount of work they've done is commendable. And also, you know, paying attention to little details is a good sign in my book, pretty much always. I mean, retooling those weird little elements in the UI does take a lot longer and a lot more input than you would think. So I'm going to keep playing the game. And I have reason to be hopeful that the devs will continue listening to feedback, hopefully turning this update into something that is not just very good, but fantastic. I have hope for that. And if you want to jump on Build 42 and hopefully ride that wave from very good to fantastic, this is a good time to do it. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I am always curious. And thank you guys for all the support you have given me already. You guys are incredible. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have all been amazing. I have been Richard, and I will see you in the next one.